Well, it looks like we're live again, Jane.
Are we?
Yeah, we are live. Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
And tonight we're going to talk about pets, and in particularly psychic pets, aren't we?
Yes.
So as people join in, we're going to say hello to you all in a minute. But yeah, so it should be quite an interesting evening's talk, I think. So if you've got any ideas about that, don't forget. Oh, we have a pet on here already, Pat. Obviously a pet lover, Pat. Yeah, they're not sending emails to live stream. They've changed the way they do it. I think they send it now as a pop-up on your screen, as a message on your screen rather than an actual email. They've done it for all YouTubes. I think it's nuisance, isn't it? If you're a patron, you should get an email though, because the patrons, I always send out a message out about an hour beforehand. So if you're a patron, hopefully you should get
Teresa.
A notification.
Say hello, Craig.
Aparajita. That's a difficult name.
Namaste.
Love listening to you both late night here in India. Yeah, I bet it is.
Lorraine.
Lorraine from
Hi,
Wareham,
Lorraine.
not quite nearby. So
I
we've got
love
people
Wareham.
again all over the world. And I expect you've all got pets. I don't know what you like there in India. If you've got some
Agility
interesting
bits.
pets. Yeah, windy Cornwall.
It is here.
Yes, it's quite wet and windy here too, actually, Agility.
It's like Dorothy's house here,
Buckinghamshire.
isn't it?
Suzanne.
Suzanne, yeah, she's nice. Justin. Hi, Justin.
Brighton. So a lot more people I see coming on straight away from Facebook here.
And Nana.
Nana, yeah. So hopefully you'll get your updates. Always, make sure you follow the channel.
CB.
Yeah.
Catherine.
There's quite a
Good
few
evening.
familiar people again here. It's nice to see a lot of you coming in
Frank.
regularly. Yeah, it's good to see you all coming in, and hopefully you've all got
Alu.
pets and animals we can
Hi
talk
from
our
Hong
stories
Kong.
about.
Hee-haw.
Miha.
Miha.
Yes, yeah.
Miha.
I think that's right. Yeah. So, I don't know, that's everybody saying hello at first, but obviously we give you a bit of time just to sort of log in to us first, because it takes a little while for the news to get round, because you get your messages a bit later now, as someone said there, from YouTube, which is a nuisance, because more and more are interested in going live.
Cheeky lamb.
Cheeky lamb. So we've
Hi,
even got
Cheeky
the
Lamb.
animals themselves coming on to talk tonight. There's obviously generating a lot of interest with the animal kingdom, tonight's theme. It is live,
Yes.
Cheeky lamb. Yes. Sometimes you come on and you're not sure, people aren't, because whether it's live or not, but you still leave your messages,
Susie.
because we do pick them up later on.
North.
And of course, other people posting comments also see the comments you've posted.
North Carolina.
All around the world again.
You will meet us one day.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, we do meet some of the people through the channel. It's amazing, actually. We get to meet you socially sometimes when people have come over here. Obviously, you can't meet everybody. That Mad Axeman guy we didn't meet, did we? But I mean, it's nice to see you guys and interact with us like this.
Anne, good evening, Anne. Thank you, Karen. Thank
Yeah,
you.
she's got another sari
You
on.
know, thank you, everybody, for noticing me. This man definitely doesn't notice me.
Colorado.
He thinks I'm an apparition, I think.
Oh, yeah, she's got a sari on. Myrtle Beach. I don't know where that is. Sounds nice though, doesn't
Good
it?
evening, Matt.
Matt, yeah, we've
Lovely for you
we know
too.
you, Matt. We've seen you quite a few times as well from Torquay.
Germany.
And Germany again.
Patrice.
Yeah. A lot of people come on regular. In fact, it's a good idea to keep a note of the time. We always go live at 7 o'clock at the moment on UK time.
Julie.
Every Friday. So if you're not getting your notifications as you should do, make sure that you look out for us at that time.
Pittsburgh. Evans.
Yeah, all on
Teresa.
both sides of the world then, and right back from India, right across the States, and all the people in the middle of the Atlantic, I expect, on the
Right.
boats. So,
Yeah, we're going to talk about psychic pets, and I found a very interesting thing that I just wrote down quickly this morning. One owner said, "I have really bad arthritis in my back. My cat knew where the pain was and started to kneel the exact spot that hurt me, and the warmth worked for me better than any expensive physio."
so they've got a healer cat.
Well, cats do know. They pick up. It's like dogs know. They can sniff out cancers, or if somebody's going to have an epileptic fit, they know.
Yeah, so she said, but she's saying the cat gives a warmth that's better than any healer, didn't she? Is that
Yes.
what she implied there?
No.
Did I hear that right?
Well, she's got pain, arthritic pain in her back, and the cat immediately got up and started kneeling into a precise spot where her pain was.
An interesting idea. I never thought about that actually. Can animals be healers? Perhaps they are.
Oh, and another pet, and I thought this was funny. A psychic octopus in Germany predicted the World Cup, and you got 8 out of 10 for
Yeah,
that.
didn't you see that on the telly when it all came out?
No.
Yeah, they had the psychic octopus, and then they had another one too, didn't they? A psychic, but the octopus was the famous one.
I thought you was going to say a psychic monkey because they're very tactile.
yeah, I did have trouble with monkeys. Yeah. I certainly did in India, I remember. Yeah, but yeah, the psychic octopus. I mean, that was a daft story, really.
Wow.
I remember it, but and then there's that thing in the magazine about the psychic horse, and there was a whole thing in the past about a psychic horse that used to make predictions back in the 30s.
Nay.
Yeah. I think that's more newspapers having a bit of fun.
Yes, but Egyptian cats, if you think of Egyptian cats, they used to like to bury the cats with them because they felt it gave them divine energy power.
Yeah, and the
Egyptian
ibis.
times.
And the ibis. They used to they found a whole mass of ibis birds buried in Egypt, didn't they? They believed in the sacredness of animals, and that the animals carry the soul, I think, the ka of the Egyptian spirits. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I mean, there's a lot of bonkers stuff out there. As soon as you get, like I've called this title on the video, "The Twilight Bone," which I think is obviously quite a typical sort of newspaper type of heading. But there's a lot of serious research done on psychic animals. I mean, the guy that I'm really like, and you've probably heard about him, Jane, Rupert Sheldrake.
Oh yes, of course I've heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, we've not met him ever, but he's floated around a lot of the events and places we've been before. But he has he gets a lot of stick. He gets a lot of stick from particularly, you remember these names, Richard Wiseman.
Oh yes,
we've had trouble with him, and we've read him, and Susan Blackmore.
Yes.
As well. I mean, he gets a lot of attacks from those two. But Rupert Sheldrake, very nice man, well-mannered man, very intelligent man. Go and look at his videos. There's some fantastic YouTube
some books out too.
there, and his books, and he's a well, he's a well-recognized author. But not everybody knows about what he has to say about animals and nature and things. He's a biologist, and he talks about this idea of what they call the morphogenic field. Right?
Now, don't go too intellectual.
Now, it's a big word, but it's easy enough to understand because it morphs. Okay, it moves into things. What he basically says is that in evolution, how do you pass along behavior, right? And you can't really pass it along by the atoms in the DNA, right? So there must be another way. So what he thinks is there's like a resonance between things. So it's like we pick up the vibes of things. That's how he says it. So, for example, when they train rats to go through a maze, they'll learn the route eventually. But those rats will pass that information on to other rats who have not been through that maze.
I wish they could do it to men.
Yeah, yeah, but they learn and learn over generations too. So what he says is that there's this idea that this morphogenic field, this like spirit in a way, that carries information from one generation to another. So, and through that, all these paranormal things could connect. So what he's saying is that nature is all connected, and we pass on our feelings, our thoughts, and
senses,
everything else through this. I suppose it's like an ether, but he'd be jumping over a high jump if you call them things like ether or spirit. But there's this, he puts it in a much more scientific way of looking at it, that basically we can pass information to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like animals pick up. They've got a sixth sense. So a dog will know immediately if its owner has something wrong with it, perhaps cancer and that, because they have dogs now that sniff out all cancers and things because their senses are heightened and everything. And I remember we had a dog, William. Do you remember?
Mm,
And
do I remember William?
I was visiting a friend, and he'd never been there before, and somehow William managed to dig underneath the fence. And suddenly, my friend said, "There's a strange-looking dog at the door." And I went on the doorstep, and it was William, and I was about a mile away,
Yeah, yeah.
and he found it.
He knew when I was coming home, because I mean that's what another one. Just going to carry on sticking with Sheldrake there. He wrote a book called Dogs Who Know When Their Owners Come Home. I think that's the title of it.
Mm.
He did a load of studies, and they monitored dogs, and the owner would come home, and the dog would immediately start to jump up at the window. But what they did is they changed the time the owner would come home. They'd have him come home different routes. They had him come home in different vehicles. He'd come in a taxi one day, bike another day, his car the other day, to rule out all this idea that the dog could be picking up the sound of the car or something. And the dog would get excited when, as the owner made the decision to come home, the dog would change its behaviour. Now, we've noticed it with Boo, haven't we?
Yes.
I mean, every time we come home, he's already there, leaping up onto the wall as you come round the corner, whether you're walking or whether you're coming round with the car. I mean, you can assume that he maybe hears the sound of the car, but it seems to be more than that, doesn't it? They know, you know.
And also about the doves in the garden.
What about them then?
Well, the doves seem to pick up a particular time feeding and that, even if we change it.
Yeah, I think animals. Talking about, here comes Boo.
Hello, Boo.
Talking about animals that they sense, don't they? They? Like St. Francis of Assisi, they say all the doves would come to him, wouldn't they, because of his good energy. And I think they recognise good people. I like those doves we had in the garden came and nested in our garden. They kind of knew us, didn't they? Yeah, you're going to ask questions today, Monica. And also, if you've got any stories yourself about psychic animals and animals that have maybe had, anything you've had with animals, basically. Any experiences with your pets, particularly, and domestic animals. Your opinion, you think this is daft?
Do you remember sometimes they used to say that people, especially with dog owners, used to look a bit like their dogs?
Yeah. I wonder whether people had. I'll tell you, and people look like animals too, don't they? Because I think where you off to, Boo? He's off to the kitchen. I think. He knows we can't go out there. Do you think? I think some people look like animals, and it makes you wonder. Have they been animals in previous lives?
Well, Chinese believe that.
I mean, some of those neighbours we've had certainly look like animals.
Well, Chinese believe about animals when you look at the zodiac sign, and they believe if there's bad people in previous incarnations, they could go back as pigs and different things.
Well, I think we carry animal characteristics. I think we might have incarnated as, human life might not be the only life we've had. Maybe we've been incarnated as monkeys. And
you've got to think about monkeys.
Or been, I don't know, maybe I've been a stick insect in a past life or something like that.
Whack.
Learned to fetch dogs. Yeah, so there's all these sort of interesting ideas about animals, really, because, we forget that we're animals, aren't we? We're all animals too, really, and we seem to sort of arrogantly think that we're different from the nature. But I can remember
I used to go horse riding a lot. We used to own horses.
What are you up to, Boo?
And I had to do a particular jump to go over jump because I used to do a lot of dressage. And this horse refused. This horse about 18 hands high refused to go over this jump, and I couldn't understand why. And suddenly, I happened to look down on the ground and the saddle was suddenly slipping. Someone had cut the saddle. And he was frightened.
The horse knew that you were in danger.
Yeah, it wouldn't go over the jump because I would have slipped and probably might have come on top of me. And so that horse saved me, really.
And both the dog we had, William, and the cats, all the cats, when you were doing there he goes through the cat's flap. He didn't like our conversation. But when you used to do readings here at home in your room there, the cats and the dogs, if not always, but if someone was really depressed, they'd sit outside the door, wouldn't they? They'd sense that there was somebody in the house that had a lot of worries, and they were empathic.
Yes, yeah. Or if I've gone on a bit too long with the reading, which I generally do, Yang used to go right round by the window and start meowing. And
Yeah,
he'd
yeah,
finish.
come and get Yang. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, come and feed your husband. He'd be saying.
No, he didn't.
That's what he was saying. Yeah, yeah, but they do definitely connect, and I think
Your
I think
energy blends,
I
doesn't it?
think they connect also in groups. Like I think we get kind of like a group minds, and that can apply on not say one hand, a forest of beech trees or something can get its own beech tree mentality. This is it could be, and a pack of animals could get their own mentality. A group of people, like a family group, develop their own kind of field, their own morphogenic field, their own mind field, as I've called
Like
it
the
in some of my books.
ravens.
Yeah, and the
Doves.
animals join in with it too. So, like the doves were outside, they became part of our group in a way. And those two, not ravens, jackdaws, they not jackdaws, what are they?
Rooks.
Rooks. Those two rooks that come to visit us, they know us. They can recognise our faces.
Oh, they're intelligent.
They know
rooks.
and they've, in a way, even when we've got cats in the house, they kind of connect with us, don't they? They
Yes,
kind of connect
yeah.
with our energy field, and I think they know you. You know, they get to know you, don't they? We've had an awful lot of animals here come into our house, haven't we? And even a mole, and hedgehogs and deer and so on.
Deer, yes, so feed the deer.
But it's but I do think that's why we say animals are psychic, but we're all psychic, in that we're all connect in some way in this collective way of thinking. You know,
consciousness.
This what Sheldrake, like I was talking about, this morphogenic field. Yeah, we're all connected, Susan.
Yeah.
That's it. We're kind of like.
Also, animals know that who are kind people.
Yeah.
Because I can remember Yang, he didn't like the look of this particular person, and he was crawling on his stomach. And it's as if he was trying to say to me, "Oh, that person's really bad. Keep away." And didn't like her and that. And she was, wasn't horrible to him or anything.
No,
just didn't like
no,
her
they
aura.
didn't spot the nasty was saying there about they feel like their pet's their soulmate. I think that does happen. I think people get very, very close energetically to
that's
animals.
Nice. Teresa, my cat passed away about 6 months ago, but before he died, for about a month, he kept crying and looking at other parts of the room all the time. I'm sure he saw someone waiting for him on the other side. Animals do know when it's their time, actually.
Yeah, I mean that's it's sad but interesting. I remember when you think of all the animals that have died, including the rabbits, because we had so many, didn't we? I was thinking of the rabbits too. But they kind of knew, and the other animals in the household knew that it was their time.
Yeah.
And that animal would go away, wouldn't it?
In a corner.
Gizzy, for example, was great. So Gizzy was a fantastic cat. He looked like Gizmo in the in the film, and he acted like Gizmo. Yeah, he looked like Gizmo, and because it was Gizmo in it. But the sad thing is I remember him dying. Before he died, he was sat looking at the sun go down, and it seemed almost symbolic, because we knew he was getting very close. We were eventually going to have to take him to the vets, and then he went and he started going off we had a kennel outside, didn't we? And he'd hide in the kennel and hide away from everybody else, because he knew that he was dying. And the other animals ignore him, don't they?
Yeah.
They almost fear the death, I think.
They smell death, animals. They smell it. They know. I mean, rabbits usually go off in a corner and they want to be left alone, peaceful. And I think, animals do know.
Elephants too. I mean, they go off to their own graveyards, don't they, where they go to die, and the other elephants will try to stop them falling over and try to make them stand up. It's like they know about death. They say the great thing about humans, the different thing about humans to animals, is that we know we're going to die, but animals don't. But I think that's wrong. Hello from India. I think you connected with my beagle Tango, who passed away on Good Friday in April. Pretty sure the August spirit message of 166 was for me. Yeah, I saw your message actually there. This you're referring to the other videos that I'm doing where I've been giving spirit messages. I can't tell you after having done those readings where I am, because you see, when you give a message from spirit, you give it. And that's an advanced message, so I'm doing it in advance. It was a technique I was taught within spiritualism. So I gave the message there, and I know you put a number of messages on there. I mean, I think all the messages have now been taken on most of those videos. But when you said about tango, I actually thought it felt right when you put your comment. But I can't confirm that now because that was a message that I gave. But if you can take all the information that was given in that advance message, then you can be pretty sure that that message was for you, because those messages I give are not generalities. You'll notice they have all sorts of very specific pieces in them to make sure it targets the right person.
Ben had several cats growing up. Would they still connect with us, even if we've moved around and many years passed by? Just wondered, as they can be very territorial. Well, animals do follow you around. It wouldn't matter where you move, because love continues on, doesn't it, Craig?
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there is not so much material territory. I think I'm very much a believer in this idea, like I was talking about earlier, of this resonance, this field that we create. And this almost like a tulpa, a group soul of some sort, that is portable, isn't it? I mean, if you lifted the whole family up, animals and all, and they planted us in another country somewhere else, our energy field would still be connected. In fact, the very same thing is happening between all of us now, because we are all in a way connecting. Because there's no distance, don't make any difference with telepathy, like they did telepathy from on the way to the moon, for example, trying out experiments with Zener cards. Distance makes no difference. So we, all of us now watching and connecting, both live and later, we're all connecting into this energy field. We're all connected, just like it happens in nature between you and your pets and you and your family. There's this resonance. There's this morphogenic field, to use the scientific type of phrase, or this
Here he
spirit,
goes again.
this spirit perhaps, or this a mind field, I call it, like an energy field of our brain.
Where do you think do dogs go after they die? I'm sure they go where the rest of us go to. I believe there's an animal kingdom, and I believe they go to the spirit world. And I remember when William died, I've only seen him once that come back, and he came back quite young, like a puppy, didn't he?
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember going to the bathroom, really tired, but I was quite lucid, happened to get into bed, happened to look down, and I saw William, and he looked quite young. And I can remember waking Craig up and saying, William's here, William's here. And he said, oh, that bloody dog.
Bloody dog, you're not going to leave me alone. I'll be climbing up the ladder to heaven, and what I'll see is his behind as I'm going up. But yeah, he was. But I think Jane and myself have given God knows how many messages to people, both in the Spiritist Church platform, on theatres, in private messages over the phone, and all the rest of it, and TV even. And many of those messages have often included references to animals, and not just, oh, this lady had a dog. It's okay, you might get that type of thing, but often you'll get the breed. You'll get something about the animal. She had a horse, and the horse had bad teeth, or the dog was wrapped up in that mat, and you carried him around in a black and white mat, and then you had to carry him all the way to the vet inside a rolled up carpet. Those sorts of messages, usually with the help of a spirit communicator of some sort. So the dog doesn't say, come and start talking to us, going woof 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 from the spirit. The dog, it would be like the granddad would have come through and said, I've got the dog, and then would tell us things about that dog. But it does give us, I think, reassurance that, animals do survive death, and they retain their sense of identity, because, if they can still be there in the spirit world, and information being able to be given to us that is specific to that animal, then they've retained their sense of identity.
It's been known that animals that have come back and suddenly brush past somebody's legs.
Yeah. People do. You get an awful lot. Like that person. Obviously, you lost your animal Tango. And it can be devastating, because they can be like your best friends, can't they? Sometimes, and particularly if you're alone.
It's a living thing.
It's a living thing to have in the room.
Agility. Before my dog died, he stared at the stairs as if he could see someone. His tail was wagging like mad. I think he knew it was his time, and he obviously knew that someone was coming from it. Probably might be somebody in the family that he recognised.
Sounds like it. I mean, they get. I think what happens with animals, actually, I think our humanness, as it were, rubs off on them. You know, I think when we have an animal in our care, whatever animal it might be, we kind of, because of our affection to it and because of our kind of love for that animal, it rubs off. And I think it gives that animal a stronger sense of identity than it would have had if it was in nature. So, like a wild dog, for example, would identify not as being an individual, but as being part of a pack. And perhaps when they go into the spirit world, their sense of identity may not be retained. It may move, some have argued this, it may move into sort of a collective consciousness for that animal, sort of an afterlife morphic field, I suppose. But when we have, but certain animals gain the sense of identity because of their contact with humans. And that gives them a chance to move up the spiritual evolutionary ladder, as it were, and maybe even one day take an incarnation in human form. Because I think we go through the ladder of all sorts of different animals, like I was saying earlier.
Gemma, do our current living pets able to see the ones that have passed on? Yes, they do. Animals do. Because I can remember a man bought his dog, and the dog's back legs were going, and it was his last link to his wife. His wife had died a year before, and he didn't want to lose this dog because he felt that was his wife and connection and everything. And the animals can see loved ones. Anyway, I've done a little bit of healing on this animal, and this animal wasn't in pain afterwards. And it's the first time I've had a bouquet of flowers from an animal, actually.
All right. A bit hard to prove something like that last question, isn't it, really? How can you tell if an animal's seeing another animal's spirit? Because we can't ask them. But they do seem to know if there's a presence, don't they?
Well, you're seeing animals sometimes look all around the room and they do see things, or you see a dog growling.
And there's also the idea that animals do sense, particularly when something strange is going on, like paranormal stuff and things like that, like ghosts and all that. So we've got another one here from Laurie. I heal people spiritually with divine touch healing, with angels, etc. I want to do the same for animals. I plan to communicate with the animals and go from there. Well, there's a lot of people doing that now. Any tips on tapping into this field to communicate with the animals?
I think just be yourself, and when you put your hand on an animal, you can sense that animal and you know exactly where to put that hand. I mean, a lot of people say they talk to the animals, horses, horse whisper and things, and it's not to say that people don't. I think if you've got a good heart, compassion and love in your soul and you want to help the animals, then I say go for it.
I think healing can come through
Divine love,
all of us,
divine love.
and I think animals are a good place to start practicing healing, because you know you're not going to have to worry about insurances and things, you know, and actually animals are one of the most interesting ways to prove that healing works, because we have humans. They might be affected by the placebo effect. You think you're going to get better, and you do get better. And actually, there's a lot of proof that this kind of placebo effect thing works. You know, that you tell someone, you know, like you give them an injection of water and tell them you give them a very powerful drug that will make them feel better, and they feel better. But with an animal, particularly with healing, that placebo effect can't work. So if they get better, it kind of proves, doesn't it, that the healing gift is real, and not just something in our mind or convincing ourselves or some fanatical sort of healing type.
Well, even if we give good thoughts for visualization for an animal that's suffering, to help that animal to eliminate pain. So every good thought, good action does work.
I don't know if they do this, but I think it would be a very good policy for people training to be healers that they first start with animals, you know, and prove their results with animals, you know, because if you can get some proven results with animals, you kind of, I think that's a stronger recommendation than
and perhaps use an infrared camera that you can actually see the results.
Well, the vets and things would spot if the animals got better.
Yeah.
You know, particularly if you've got a sympathetic vet, they would probably be able to qualify some of your you know what you've done.
Yeah.
Fantastic thing. Nana Rosebud. A stray cat came up to our back door when my husband had cancer. We adopted him, and my hubby swears that the cat helped him to get better. He's gone now.
Yes, as I say, animals do have a very strong sense, and probably that animal is very unique that animal suddenly turned up on your doorstep, and then you took that animal in and helped your husband. And I'm sure animals do have healing powers.
And there's a lot of evidence to show that when people, that people in hospitals, for example, when a pet is brought in, their recovery time increases. I think it's just something about, and I suppose the same thing would be when children go around to see older people and things. It's kind of spiritually uplifting for them, and I think there's a natural empathy with animals. You know, it's like a dog and a cat to a lesser extent, but they both do. They kind of love you even if you're horrible. You know, Adolf Hitler had Alsatian dogs, and they were kind of, in a way, his only saving grace in some respects, and he really, I think, did genuinely care for them. So I think there's a certain empathy that happens between humans and animals that must have healing qualities on all sorts of levels. Maybe it's psychological, you could argue it's psychological, but maybe it's deeper than that, because I certainly do think that there's a resonance, like I was talking about, there's a resonance between humans and animals, and this group collective soul maybe just helps us to get better. It's all connected with group energy.
I know. I read an article once where they actually took this man's horse. He was dying of cancer, and it's as if the horse came to say goodbye to him and went straight up to his face and licked him, and the man sort of passed then into the spirit world, and he had bliss on his face.
Well, they definitely know, don't they? I mean, look at this. I can't remember the names of the cases exactly, but there's quite a lot of them where dogs have sat on their owners' graves.
Oh, Bobby, grave.
There was one, wasn't there? There was one that sat there for months. Used to come back every day to the owner's grave.
That was the one in Scotland.
I think it was in Scotland. And it was well documented, I remember. I'm sure you could look the details up, but it's amazing to think that they have such a strong connection. And you know,
that's so funny.
My dog did not want me to leave home, and that day went for beers and got caught drinking and driving. I should have stayed at home drinking with my dog. Oh, he knew all your bad habits, did he? Yeah, so he cottoned on.
Hilarious.
That's quite a good one. Yeah, I don't like the way people give dogs. Well, thanks for donating. These are donations that people put up for through YouTube, which helps us with the channel. Thank you for that. We do abuse animals terribly, really, don't we? I mean, I know there's a big question mark of whether we should ever eat animals or not, but we do abuse so many animals. I remember at Chipperfield Circus up at the they had the zoo up at Southampton Common, didn't they? And they let the monkey George there smoke. People used to hand
James, not George.
Yeah, it's similar.
No,
it's a long time ago. We're talking about when I was a kid. But they used to give him cigarettes, didn't they? And
that poor elephant with the chain around his.
Yeah, you see such terrible things.
Personally, I don't like to see animals in zoos or circuses.
And when you think about the natural empathy that occurs between humans and animals, you know, it's a terrible thing. I think we sentimentalize animals too much. We project human feelings onto them that often aren't there. You know, think, oh, look at his lovely soppy face, and all he's thinking is, I want my food, hurry up. you know. So,
a bit like you, then.
Yeah, a bit like you, but like me, I suppose. But you know what I mean? It's we get carried away with it. You know, in places in America and in the UK and Japan, we get silly with animals.
No, I think animals are sent for a reason. I'm sure they are sent for a reason.
Yeah, but there is also
there's stress
connection.
Debusters, especially cats, when you're stroking and purring, and dogs, and they give you unconditional love.
And I think there is an energy connection. You know, there is definitely an energy connection between all living things. And I'd even say as far as it would happen in the plant world too, you know.
Jenna. Craig, is there a way to get in contact with my dog who died last year?
Well, you see, when you
You can't do it on demand.
When you give a reading for somebody, you need to, first of all, you have to make, if you're going to connect with an animal in the spirit, because people come to me sometimes and they're entertaining. They say, oh, I don't want to talk to any of the humans on the afterlife. I don't like any of them. They're all horrible. I just want to talk to my animals, right? I've had that happen before. I said, well, look, I can't do it that way because I won't know. I won't be able to confirm. I have to, first of all, give you some proof and evidence from somebody you know on the spirit side. Now, and then it's better you know nothing. You know, it's no good saying I want to connect with Mr. So-and-so and here's a photograph of him. Now, the less you know, the better. And then if you can give some real proof of somebody from the spirit world, you know, you might get their grandmother or something like that, and you give some real specific details, then you usually get that spirit communicator will say, now I'll tell you all about the animals, right? So, oh yes, she used to have a horse and the horse name was Jerry. And they used to, you know, and so and so and so. And they give all the details about it. But the animals themselves don't communicate through the medium. They communicate via a human communicator on the spirit side. Would you agree with that, Joan?
I do. I remember a man came from Scotland once. He'd lost a Great Dane dog. And like Craig said, he wasn't interested in communication with loved ones, but you had to have a communicator come through and tell you about the animals. And this dog was his sort of friend and everything. And then I remember another girl had lost her cat. I won't say who she is because she's quite a famous person. And it's best that nobody tells you what animal they want to communicate and let it come through naturally. And all of a sudden, I remember this beautiful cat went plop on my lap and describe the animal and everything, and I feel that it made her feel much better.
Yeah, I think some of the best evidence for animals has often come through spontaneously, like you say, and particularly, I mean, sometimes in private readings, but often when you, because Jane and I worked for many years in spiritualism, we don't do much now, but for years and years used to do 3 days a week doing spiritualist churches.
Free service.
A massive amount, going all over the country doing them. But you give messages, and sometimes you get the right information at the right time. Particularly, something would come through about a pet or an animal, and it would be absolutely life-changing for the person. Sometimes I've seen people burst into tears because you've not. The thing is, you don't just say, I've got a dog on the spirit side. You give the specific details. You've got to give evidence again, which comes through the communication between the spirit communicator and the medium. So you've got to give evidence. And this is so
and most
critical.
Important.
Evidence is so critical.
The medium is giving you what condition that animal went over. It could be liver cancer. It could have been run over. So you've got to give specific evidential proof.
And all sorts of peculiar things have come through with animals sometimes, medical things that they've had done and things like that, and quirks that the animals have had. I remember one animal, something about it had false tooth, you know, as a proof.
God.
It had an artificial tooth put in.
Right, can you do some, Craig?
A patron, thank you, Tara, for being a patron. That's always appreciated. Any of you that are patrons that come tonight, thank you. And any of you that aren't, you can become a patron. And you'll get updates and you'll see some new stuff. I'll have to put some new stuff up soon for you patrons, actually, by the way. And I'm going to be having some more live sessions. So I'll put a live session thing out if you want to join me for workshops on the patron site. But so those of you that are watching. Anyway, patron, hi, Craig and Jane. My dog is 16 years old and always been able to sense ailments. Before my dad died, she always sat by him and she always sniffs my mum's bad ankle. Oh, God. Sniffing your bad ankle's an odd thing, isn't it?
Not really. Well, that dog knew.
They do know, and they of course nowadays we've got they can train dogs to smell cancer, can't they? They actually
and
have
drugs.
Yeah, and drugs and everything. They have. I mean, they have thousands of times more sensory.
Well, the senses are heightened, don't they?
Smell,
the sounds and everything.
So they can smell all sorts of different illnesses and where it comes from and things like that. So it's fascinating that animals can be used in that way. You see, you know.
Well, another thing I found interesting, Craig, is in the Second World War, and I didn't know this, or did you? Where's that famous place we went to and they trained all pigeons?
Oh, you mean oh God, you got me now. You'd never asked me things. I've got terrible memory for names of places and people.
It's a secret place, wasn't it?
Oh, where cheering was and all that.
Yeah, you know. Where is it?
name of the place. I've forgotten it now. I'll look it up. You carry on talking, and I'll look it up. I've forgotten the
They
name of
actually
it.
trained these pigeons to take messages and what was going on, because then the Germans suddenly clicked on that these pigeons were taking messages, because they trained all these messages and all conspiracy things and that, and the Germans end up shooting them and that. But I found it
Bletchley Park.
That's it.
God, blimey, I couldn't remember it.
Wasn't it fascinating? And these
I mean,
birds
yeah,
end up
again, how we
medals.
connected with animals and use animals in unusual ways. That's homing pigeons, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, and they were going to the wrong place. They were Germans were sending off their homing pigeons, and they put their own pigeons in, hijacked it with their own pigeons. But that's more of an instinctive thing. But I mean, there's still interesting. How do animals know things like, how to migrate and the what they say they follow the magnetic field and things like that? I mean, how do they know these things?
Well,
How can you go and find
like
a
those
pool
pigeons
down in Africa from
well,
here?
they've got a memory. They
I mean,
memorize.
incredible abilities, sensory abilities, and you have to think, could that not also have some other level to it, like a spiritual level to it of some sort? A level to it that is extrasensory. It would make sense that it's got an extrasensory level to it. Again, this morphogenic field idea.
Patrice, do you think that animals take on illnesses from their owners? Both the dogs of my parents had the same symptoms as my dad had. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Possibility. It's not thought about that before. It's an interesting idea, sort of an empathy that you take on another's, and perhaps we as humans do too, that we pass around our illnesses through that field of energy. That's why I think it's always so important that you always think positive with illness. I mean, your mum comes round sometimes and you say, "Oh, I've got a headache. Oh, it's a brain tumour," or I've got tummy ache. Oh, and you'll have an operation.
Say it. She's not hexing you, Craig.
And I say, well, you're hexing us. You shouldn't say things like that. You should always think positively towards people. And I think this is part of this idea we were talking about. It's like, if you think about it again, that we've got an energy field that we all share and nature shares, and that's why we can connect with animals. And that's a very ancient thing, and that whatever we put into it helps us be healthy or successful or whatever. These things are thoughts, they come back on us, and it maybe works on that level.
Elephants. How about when elephants cry, they find a dead elephant? It might just be the skull of the elephant. How they all call.
They know, don't they?
They do.
Animals do know, and we all know, I think. And also, it makes a lot of survival sense, as it were, that we should have these abilities. Evolutionists will say, "Oh, well, they make what's the point of having these things?" Well, there is a lot of point to it. You think if before we had language, how did we communicate, and how do animals communicate without language? Okay, they use barks and squawks and all the rest of it, but there's more to it than that. I mean, one of the other things that the experiments have been done with animals is these people and animals know when we're being stared at. So that must be something from nature. How do we know that someone is staring at us? I mean, you can try it. If you stare at somebody, if you when you're people watching, particularly if a couple of you do it, you stare at someone who's not looking at you, they're looking at them from behind, they will turn around and look at you because they get the sense that something's wrong, and you've probably felt it yourself. So this is an old survival instinct, isn't it, really, that we've got, that we know when we're being stared at. So if that can be proven, and there's been done quite a few experiments.
Cats don't like to be stared at, do they?
No, but they've done experiments where people, people don't know that they've got people behind them, and sometimes the screen's closed and sometimes it's open. They
sense it.
And they can tell when they're being stared at. And in particular, their body knows because their heartbeat changes. So these are very interesting ways to start proving extrasensory perception, I think, particularly with the animal kingdom. You're going to leave it to me to read? Okay.
Of course.
Marty is saying here, I have a collie dog who seems to grunt every time she lays down, and she even sometimes does it when I'm having a conversation with somebody.
Oh, well,
Any ideas what this could be?
She's really getting fed up and
It
choosing
sounds to me
more.
like boredom. I was going to say your conversations need to be improved. You need to include a bit of words
she's
like biscuits and
protesting.
walkies in it.
She's
And I think you'll change
protesting.
your words.
It's like when somebody keeps on and on, you go, oh, like that, isn't it?
Oh, they're at it again. They're off again. But it's interesting. But she's obviously got the message through to you, hasn't she?
Yeah.
You know, you
What a
know
very
that
clever
she's
dog.
a clever dog because she's given you the message there. Shut up and pay more attention to me. I mean, I sit and lay on the floor and grunt when you're having conversations with your friends.
You can talk. You're worse than a woman.
The Egyptians worship cats. I have 2 black-winged Egyptian cat statues. Love them. Yeah, they did worship cats. And like I said, also the ibis and all sorts of peculiar, strange things. But they were a symbol.
Well, they treated them like gods.
Yeah,
didn't
they did. The cats were considered as being the reincarnated
Sacred.
souls, weren't they?
Sacred.
They were the reincarnated
Very
souls
sacred.
of the people, of the dead.
And they used to put mummified cats in the coffins.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. There was huge numbers of mummified cats found in some of these underground tunnels that they made for the dead. You know, just endless mummified cats.
Do you want to be mummified, Craig, when you go?
Yeah. The only thing is, as long as they didn't kill the cats to mummify them, they might have done that to carry the soul.
That's sweet, isn't it? Suzanne, when my spaniel died that night, I cried myself to sleep and got woken up feeling that something touched my forehead. I'm sure that was your lovely spaniel, and that was probably feeling sad for you as well. And it is awful when we lose pets because we have such attachment to them. They become a part of us, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, we've lost a lot lately. We've only got Boo left now, but at one point
Angel this year.
We've had 4 cats,
More than that.
5 cats.
Yeah.
We've had 5 rabbits, more or less.
7 rabbits.
7 rabbits. God, you know, and those beautiful gerbily werblies that I used to taunt William with. Yeah, so you kind of, particularly when you got kids, you tend to like to have the cats and the animals and things. But
I like dogs.
I think they do make a good part of a home if you like them. You know,
believe it or not, Craig wanted a parrot. There's no way I'm having a parrot. I've got enough to put up with Craig when he keeps talking without a parrot.
I think we'd have a job filming with a parrot constantly going on. But it would be fun. I have to get my friend's parrot that's got a blue language.
Yes, I am considering writing about communicating with the spirits. But I will have my own channel later on, won't I, Craig?
Yeah, Jane would like to have her own little YouTube channel as well, so she can just sort of do her own chats in her own private way in any way she likes. So I'll set one up and I'll start putting the links. Once we got it, I'll put the links in the descriptions below. And we've already got a few other channels there too, because we've got another channel, which is our psychic lifestyle channel. So those ones where you like to see us just going out and about and going to the beach and chatting and having the silly conversations and getting daft, picnics, and the family stuff and the picnics and things. That's all on a separate channel because not everybody that subscribes to this channel necessarily wants to watch that stuff as well. So I thought, well, we'll split them into 2, but go and join each channel because there'll be more stuff put on there. And too.
In November, we actually got our own show in a theatre. We'll be demonstrating communication with spirit, and then we're hoping to do some live ghost hunts as well.
Yeah, you can actually get through the website at psychics.co.uk to give you one, but I think it's sold out, Jane. That is, but hopefully we'll do some more later on because this coronavirus.
It was meant to be in April, and then we've had to have it November, but I think we'll be okay. Yeah,
it's a smaller event, not like the big ones we did in Bournemouth and places, but it's fun. And anybody that's a patron will come along, and we'll have a chat with any patrons afterwards. The $25 patrons.
And you can take lovely photos of Craig and me afterwards. Yeah. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah. So we got Nana's saying here. I got told that there are people trying to devise some sort of telephone so that you could, in theory, phone loved ones in the spirit world. Can you see that happening?
No,
that's exciting.
No.
I think it was Edison that tried to, when they first invented, all the things like the record player and the
spirit messages,
the idea of a telephone. One of the first things they thought about is it possible also that we could not make some form of device to communicate with the spirit world? And I think it was Edison. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, if you know the answer. But I think it was Edison tried to create his own spirit phone, and he had all sorts of ways and ideas of doing this. So it's not a new idea, that, and that's probably something that somebody's put up there, just.
I do think in the future we'll be able to reflect our dreams on the wall. I do think technology is changing so much, and we'll be amazed with artificial intelligence that's
I
coming.
think once we start learning to plug into the brain, because we're already doing it with some things for people that have had deafness, and sometimes for a loss of sight, we're learning to connect the perceptions into the directly wired in, literally screwed straight into the brain. Now, if we could do that, maybe we could also, do other things. But how you would communicate with the spirit world, I think we don't even know how. We've got no idea how it works at the moment. It obviously comes through the brain somehow. There must be some sensory device.
It's like the alpha waves, isn't it? It's like a radio station tuning in.
We don't really know how it works. I mean, we think. When the early days of spiritualism also talked very much about the ideas of ectoplasm, because the first days of spiritualism were very much this idea of physical mediumship, where the spirit would build up in the room. Now, we don't see much of that nowadays, and everything I've seen of it so far has been a fraud, which is greatly sad. And also in spiritualist times, there was an awful lot of fraud as well, which kind of undermines all the good stuff. But then there was also, I think, a lot of genuine stuff. And of that genuine stuff, if you can get the fraud out of the way, there was this idea that there was an ectoplasm. It was the idea that there was some form of substance that was neither living nor dead, that was kind of between the two worlds, that acted as the intermediary substance. So in order to make a communication with the spirit world, we would again need to see the development of ectoplasm in mediums, and we would need somehow to be able to measure that. And I just don't know if that could be. William Crookes, the scientist, tried to do this, and some of the great scientists of the Victorian era tried to capture and measure the ectoplasm. But whether we could ever get to a state where spiritualists could again be developing ectoplasm, it might have been just that it was a phenomena that came for a short while to prove to us that communication with the spirit world was possible, and now that has subsided, and we're now left with mental mediumship, which is equally as interesting, but not as tangible as.
Well, Helen Duncan definitely did have ectoplasm, because the gentleman that came to me, who's friendly with the policeman, and when they raided her, his hand went through it, and it's got like a snotty.
It was his grandfather, I think, was one of the people of the police that actually raided the seance, and he was terrified by it because he saw the ectoplasm and his hand went through it. That's what he said to us. Didn't he?
And actually, when you do have a spirit form build up, you should actually be able to touch it, and it's like a human hand or part, and it's real.
And that policeman was shaken the rest of his life by what he saw there. And yet, also, when you look at some of the stuff in the photographs of Helen Duncan, you see other stuff that looks to me like a complete fraud. And I think what happened with Helen Duncan, and other spiritualists might argue or agree with this, that she had to deliver the goods. And I think sometimes she cheated because she wasn't a very bright woman. So she didn't realize that if she was to cheat, then it would undermine everything else she'd done, So I think that was part of the case there, and you see that sometimes.
But there's no proof she cheated.
No, there's not. But there's some of those pictures and some of the things that were said. So it's a huge debate that's been picked over by everybody since back to Houdini and others. What happened with those seances. But I think the ectoplasm there was real, and that was our personal experience because we got someone that could tell us directly about it.
Yes. Yeah.
So Nana, again, I think that they worship cats because maybe they were visited by the Lyrian alien race. They must have been had the technology to help build the pyramids. Well, that's way off topic, but it's quite an interesting topic. I think we probably have been visited by ancient aliens. I'm pretty sure that has been the case personally. But I
think you've got that in your genetics, have you, Craig?
Yeah, but I think there's an awful lot of crackpot stuff out there as well that unfortunately messes up all the real stuff. A bit like I was saying with physical mediumship, all the wrong stuff that went around actually destroys the truth that was there. A tiny, you get one good medium, and then you get 100 others that are rubbish, and that one good medium gets swamped under it all. And the same thing happens, I think, with all this alien business, because the problem is there's all the crackpotty sort of stuff out there, and then we lose track with where was there anything real. I mean, when I read in the Indian stuff too about people like Shiva, I was saying to you today, wasn't I? That Shiva, was he a spaceman? Because he had all these superhuman powers, and the gods of India, were they people from another dimension or another a multiverse or something? Were the Egyptian people involved in those things too? Were the people of South America? Were the people of Atlantis or Lemuria and Tamari Kandam, or I can't forget, I've got the name of all the ancient myths. Okay. Who knows? So we're going to be taking your last questions now, guys. So now don't forget to like and share this, because even though it's over, if you share it on your Facebook, more people start following it. And if you enjoy it, if you're new here for the first time and you missed us live and you've gone this far, don't forget to subscribe, because then you'll get, and if you click the little bell, that will give you updates every time we go live. They're not sending them as emails, it seems now, but you will get updates pop up on your phone to say Craig and Jane are live now, which means you can come on and visit us live. And if you really want to keep in touch with us, become a patron. You can become just a $3 patron, and that will give you'll get updates. Like I just sent them an email out to everybody who's a patron. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a $9 or $25 patron, and there's also in your own currencies the same amounts. But that helps support our channel, helps us to build it, helps us eventually to do the things. What we're really trying to do with all this is ultimately to build a center. And you'll see also from our work that we also do a bit of spiritual work in terms of helping people in a charitable way as well. So like, subscribe, and leave a comment as well, because that also helps us to keep the thing boosted a little bit. And if you write your comments, we're going to answer those questions in upcoming videos. Like, for example, some of you have been putting in the comments this week about, can you tell us what you think about Sadhguru? So I've got one coming out on Sunday about Sadhguru and what my thoughts and feelings are about him, which was quite a difficult one to do. So we do pay attention to what you have to say in the comments. Last questions, I think, now coming up.
Right, Ben. My cat started bringing birds on the same day my gran passed away. Is there a spiritual meaning behind this? It was just a few hours before, maybe a warning or a sign. We locked her in after that day.
I don't know. To be honest, Ben, I would have thought you're reading into things there, if I'm honest, because animals do, that's their natural behavior of animals. But unless the animal was stressed somehow, because often, when an animal starts bringing in wild animals and they've still got the food there, they're gifts. They sometimes bring in as gifts, don't they? Like you say. So it might be connected. In fact, it could be connected, couldn't it? When you think about it like that.
Well, feathers are spiritual, aren't they? Feathers.
Yeah, but I think perhaps the animal's behavior could be triggered.
It might be
by something like that.
Might have sensed that your grandmother passed, and that was trying to make you feel good, bringing birds in, and you've done the right thing by keeping your cat in.
And like you said, it's a gift, isn't it? It's a gift. So
heavenly gift, though it's
perhaps
ghastly.
It was like,
heavenly gift.
If I give you this bird, will she come back, please?
Yeah.
Almost, perhaps, but we can't answer that, can we? That might be cat's behaviour, but it doesn't mean to say that they aren't. It's not an easy one to answer that. Well, Mary, thanks. We will have a great weekend. I don't know if we're going to film anything this weekend, are we, Jane?
Well, it depends on the weather. If
see
it's
what
raining.
it's like. Thank you for a really interesting Q&A, Craig and Jane. Have a good weekend.
And you too, Jane.
And you. Thank you for supporting us and coming regularly.
You too, Daryl.
And hi from South Africa. We've got quite a few there from South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. We should do something special for South Africa and some more stuff about South Africa. Missed you again. Thanks for the email. We sent out a notification email, so you must have got that, Sandy, I think. Thanks for this chat. You should get a cat and call her who. Oh yeah, yeah, boo hoo. Yeah, that would be quite good, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah.
I might get another cat. Yeah.
Thanks for answering. Yeah, we're always pleased, and thanks for asking the questions, because that's, if you don't ask the question, we haven't got a show. So thank you guys. Meditation Chamber, what an unusual name you have. Thank you for a very interesting chat as always. Thank you guys. It's very nice that you're all joining us like this from all over the place.
Lorraine.
And it's really nice
Thank you,
that
Lorraine.
you've been supporting us. And like I say, keep telling everybody about us and start increasing the subscriptions. We want to get to that 100,000 subscribers, we hope soon.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Luke.
So we're going to say bye to you now,
Justin.
guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to say then bye for now then. Okay, see you soon then.
Take care.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Bye for now.